And I think like that's one of the big misconceptions about what modernization means. It's that
Yes.
they think like, oh, my software is going to run faster. It's not going to be so slow anymore. Oh, the user interface is going to look more like what my iPhone looks like. Oh, it's not going to look like Windows 95. And it's like, no, what it really means is like you're completely rethinking how you do it.
Mhm.
Why do you have those things on the screen at all? Like, what do you really need on the screen? Not what you're used to having. Let's not just recreate it. It's that, what do you actually need? So much of, I swear, the cliche I use the most at work is like, hey, we don't want to build you a faster horse. We want to build you a car. And it's really just taking these things about what modernization means. Like, it's not a faster horse. It's just completely rethinking how you do your job and what we can actually build for you. And it's so much more cooler than what you can possibly imagine.
Welcome to the Wad Garage Pops. This show is where enterprise, technology, AI, IT leadership meets real life stories, sports, music, bourbon, and backyard cooking. If you're enjoying these conversations about tech and AI and leadership and just life in the garage, make sure you follow the show and hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. Still, it's good to have you back in the garage, ready to dig in some tech, some stories, and stir up a little trouble along the way.
Absolutely. Do as I say, not as I do.
Here we go. So today in the garage, we were joined by one of my longtime friends, Andy Hickey. So Andy helps organizations turn ambitious ideas into like scalable, high value software, drawing on his years of experience leading complex projects with agile customer success at the center of his focus. So his career has taken it from like international nonprofit and work in Honduras, leading IT alliances, some consulting at some other larger firms in the area before stepping into this senior project management and really the director of customer success at Taza. Am I saying that right, Taza?
Yes, it means
Okay.
fresh.
So, Andy, thanks for joining us and bringing your perspective on where tech is headed. I want to start with just provide some perspective on you and just how your responses and your experiences are. Take us back to Honduras. What first pulled you into that mission work, and what did a normal day look like on the ground?
Well, I am an international studies major. I was an international studies major at the University of Dayton, and there was a couple different options to do some type of fulfill the degree requirement, and one of them was to do a semester abroad. And so there was a mission that no one at UD had gone to before. But it sounded cool to work with someone of an orphanage, and so I volunteered.
When you were at technology first, what were you trying to build for the regional tech community, and what did that success look like for you?
So Technology First is a regional trade association for technology companies and technology users in the region. When I first joined it a long time ago, and it was called Greater Dayton IT Alliance, and what we were trying to do was just break down silos. So Dayton has just a lot of technology talent, and they always have in the region, but Technology First's mission has always been to bring people together and to break down silos. So sharing ideas, building personal connections, building professional connections to people so that people could learn from each other. And I think honestly, this would be a great time for us to talk about our lawsuit that we met in, Brian. Have we talked about that on this podcast?
No.
So Brian and I first met when he was the IT director at a law firm. And I don't know if in the Dayton area. Brian's dynamic personality led us to bring a bunch of IT directors of law firms into one room and to meet regularly about law practice IT. And I think that perfectly encapsulates everything we were trying to do with Technology First. So that's how I met Brian, and he did some great work there.
So, as you try to prepare for your later work, how did that help you? I guess the Greater Dayton Alliance, meeting all these people and just getting in those conversations with various leaders of various different verticals. How did that prepare you for like consulting, project management, and now customer success?
So it kind of taught me the language without having to know what all the words meant. So I knew what an API was. I couldn't program one to save my life, but I knew what one was. I knew what these different systems were, just being in the same room and listening to all these conversations. I also got really used to being in and facilitating conversations with people that if I was joining the company, it would have been like 7 layers up from me. Gave me a real perspective on that. And I think overall, just it really helps me just deal with, I guess what I would call it soft power, is that I've never been in a position of authority. Both, like when I was at Technology First, I was working I was working with volunteers who had day jobs, and I never could tell them to do something. I always had to plead with them and connive them into doing stuff. So then when you're a consultant, you also don't have any real power. I mean, my joke always with my clients was, I'm so low on the org chart, I'm not on the org chart. So again, I had to work with people and convince them to do things and kind of just leadership through soft action. And I was supposed to get things done for that organization, but I had no power to get those things done. I couldn't always just go to my client manager or go to the person's boss. Like I had to work with someone. I had to kind of talk with them and convince them to do something. So I kind of feel like those things all kind of led together and just worked to blend whatever I am today.
So, how have your experiences in countries like Honduras and your experiences at Technology First shaped the way you think about human-centered design and adoption today at Taza?
I think that really what we learned was it wasn't just about, I know it's such a cliche, but it is true. It is about the people and really trying to understand, like, okay, this is the people who are going to use this software aren't the people who are building the software, and really understanding, okay, the end user is, the person who's trying to fit in some spreadsheet data, having to use a spreadsheet when they could be using something that's a little bit more elegant. It's someone who is, kind of understanding also. So that's kind of like the Honduras part, but the Technology First part was also just seeing about how technology kind of goes in waves of things, and people get interested in something, and sometimes they take some things from that and kind of going on to the next phase of this, and kind of looking at where we're at with Taza. It's like, okay, what's important right now and what's going to be important tomorrow, and just I have being in Technology First. You saw all the stuff that happened. Like I remember RFID was such a big deal for like a year or two, and now it's not. No one talks about RFID, but you kind of have to understand, okay, where's the really important part of this, and like the stuff that really people care about, and the things that are just going to go away are in our fads.
You've seen tech from the community side, the consulting side, and now the product and customer side. So you've been on the support side, and now you're on the driving and leadership side, which is exciting. When you're in the org chart now, you're no longer so low. You're not represented. You're there. It's maybe one thing that you would highlight that teams might make it as a mistake in those different contexts.
So congratulations, you've triggered me. So we're not going to go off on a couple things. Let me break each of these things down. So on the community side, I would say just it's also very relevant to the business side. All these are related. The community side, people in community development things, they don't understand who you have to pay attention to who you listen to. On business side, we kind of know that because some clients some customers don't have a good idea, and you have to ignore them. Additionally, in the community side, they think the more people you get together, the better off it is. In business side, you're like, okay, there's a reason why we have the 2 pizza rule. You don't have a productive meeting if you have you can't feed everyone in the room with 2 pizzas. It's an old Amazon thing. So like you have to have the right people. You have to make sure you're listening to the right people, and then you have a small enough group that you can actually get something done. I think on the consulting side, I think the consultants were really smart, and having the ability to work on problems that don't affect you is really powerful. Like I was some clients brought me in on some really sensitive stuff because it wasn't affecting me because I didn't work there. And I think that's a real powerful thing of like saying you're not having to work with, hey, this I'm bringing an application, it may replace me. As a consultant, you're okay with that because you're going to be replaced. I think on the client side of the consulting, I think just really listening to your people. We have to do a better job of bringing good ideas up from other parts of the company and bringing more. Just what can you do to listen to someone on the equivalent of the shop floor to at the front desk to have a better idea for the whole company. I do think that there are good ideas sprinkled throughout the company, and I don't think that companies really do a good enough job of leveraging that. Honestly, consulting companies are awful at it. I mean, consulting companies employ all these people who are give advice for other people, but they would never listen to their own consultants about how to run the company. And I've always thought that was very striking and hilarious. There needs to be a lot more democracy in consulting companies. So on the product side, of all the things I'm spoken about, the thing I'm most passionate about is shipping early. We've seen so often where someone's trying to add like 3 more features into it, and it's like, no, and it turns out that like the you just so many times in products like the 3 features that they're trying to add don't add any value to their customers, and their customers don't care. That's just always it's the best thing to ship one thing that works and then give feedback on it and iterate off of that. It's always the right answer. Ship early and ship often. But entrepreneurs really feel like the first impression that they make is so important. And I feel like on the product side, it's more about getting something out there and getting a reaction to it, even if it's a bad idea. Getting that feedback early is so much more powerful, and that's really why I feel passionate.
Mid-sized and fast-growing companies don't fail at modernization because of technology, but because of fragmented systems, manual workarounds, and solutions that ignore how people actually work. A point you were making earlier, Andy. When you walk into a typical mid-market client, what are the most common signs that they're stuck in fragmented systems and manual processes?
There's someone in the company who just is dying to tell me how much they hate their software. That's the best clue I have. I guess the other one that is a really big thing is anytime they have to export something to Excel to get their work done, that's also a really bad sign. Like there's so much bad software where the only reason they get around it is because they have some key to let someone export to Excel. Well, feel I guess I want to hear your perspective on this.
No comment. I can't tell you how true that rings. Having the Excel sheet sprawl. Let's have a meeting and we'll create a new Excel sheet and then we'll just work from the Excel sheet. Never mind the software that we have that was specifically designed that we are now putting in Excel. Hopefully we'll take this data and put it somewhere meaningful later, but probably not. We'll just start a new Excel sheet or we'll just keep building tabs underneath it.
I also think when you're talking with a client and all you hear is how extraordinarily long something is taking them process wise, and then you ask them about the systems. Well, that's the way we've always done it. And they talk like it's 10, 15, 20 years, always done it. You know, you have an issue there with modernization. It doesn't mean you have to go to AI. It just means you have to do things a little bit differently than you did then. Because back then, Lotus 1, 2, 3 was probably your key data entry point, right? But now there's so many different options and different things that people expect, and the speed of information and processing, the expectation of speed is extraordinary as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the other thing is they might have known how to get it done in Lotus 3, but not the latest system. And that might just be training too.
Yeah, a lot of it's scared. I don't want to lose my job. I mean, there's a lot of people. And again, it's people. I mean, back when 70s and 80s, it was people, process, and technology, but it was barely people. It's mostly about the technology and then about the process, right?
Yeah.
And you had to follow a process with this software in order for it to work. And then it became a little bit more about the process of how you were able to do things and open things up a little bit. But now it's about people. You can tailor things nowadays, the same product to work with several different people and the way they work today. And I think you just got to think of those things, empathetic, I guess you want to call it, to the user and their efficiencies.
Yeah, I think like that's one of the big misconceptions about what modernization means. It's that they think like, oh, it's my software is going to run faster. It's not going to be so slow anymore. Oh, the user interface is going to look more like what my iPhone looks like. Oh, it's not going to look like Windows 95. And it's like, no, what it really means is like you're completely rethinking how you do it. You know, what why do you have those things on the screen at all? Like, what do you really need on the screen? Not what you're used to having. Let's not just recreate it. It's that, what do you actually need? So much of, I swear, the cliche I use the most at work is like, hey, we don't want to build you a faster horse. We want to build you a car. And it's really just taking these things about what modernization means. Like, it's not a faster horse. It's just completely rethinking how you do your job and what we can actually build for you. And it's so much more cooler than what you can possibly imagine.
And maybe your company doesn't need a faster car, it needs a semi truck that can haul more, right?
I just need you to put the export to Excel button as a larger button.
Yeah. So framing modernization as a staged journey, discover, design, build, scale, rather than a single big bang project, starting with the most painful workflows, integrations to show value, like I call it low hanging fruit, right? So you can bring trust and show value quickly. Using AI and automation is where there's natural fits instead of forcing them everywhere. Nowadays, everybody thinks AI is like the rescue instead of, using AI in an appropriate place. Where do you usually start with data, user experience, the UX, processor integrations?
I love leading with design. I tell our clients we're a design-driven company. I know test-driven development was whatever. We're design-driven development. It's just so much. It's so cool to see a client's face light up when the thing they're imagining is actually a Figma prototype. I mean, it really just changes the conversation all around of what's possible, and it really helps them let go of what's in the past and reach for what's possible. It's so hard to imagine this just by words, but when they can actually click on a prototype and you tell them, hey, it's not going to save any data, it's just a prototype, not an actual application, but still them being able to click on something like that, it's incredibly cool. Their face always lights up, and it's always it's magical. After that, I think really looking at what, I don't know, I think data. Just really what they're trying to capture, what's that data look like, making sure that we get to the right place and make sure we're moving it in the right way and to the other right places externally and then elsewhere in the application.
I think intuitiveness is always your focus. It has to be something natural, has to be something, fewer clicks is better, all those sort of things. But a question I usually ask is like, what are you struggling with? Why is this not working for you? Which is going to be different than the person across the hall or down the hallway or in the other room or on another floor. But I mean, just tell me what doesn't work for you, but keeping it intuitive and clean and not looking at it from a programmer developer view. I'm going to give them all these different buttons. I'm going to give them all these different options. That's not going to work. You need to keep it simple and flowing and the way they think and put fields in the way the story goes, right? So storyboarding, like you said, the design, that's got to be the way you start because that's how the map you got to, always point towards the compass, right? The true north. So.
When you're going through that process, it's very topical in the day that we live in. Does AI come up in that conversation? And then how do you navigate that?
What's AI? I'm just kidding.
Protect him at all costs.
I mean, it's the topic of half the conversations in my day right now. I'm very bullish / scared / overwhelmed by AI. It really is. I think it's the only thing that's bigger than it is the network because the AI needs the network. Other than that, I think it is all that. I think definitely like what can do now versus what it will do in 5 years is really the question of that and having conversations about that and saying, okay, yeah, we couldn't do that 6 months ago. We can do that now. Okay, and hopefully we can do this other thing in next year. It's really trying to surf the wave. I keep thinking of it as a wave in terms of like it's either going to drown you or you're going to surf it to glory.
That's a great way to put it.
So I think, I want to get back to your question and answer it forthrightly. So I think that the use cases for is, and it really has changed. I mean, I think I want to say like just having a simple chatbot on everything. I don't know if people really are still there, but I know that our more advanced clients don't want something beyond that. They want to integrate it into their products. We had really, really amazing success on a product where we were integrating in doing photo recognition of whether work got completed or not. And that was a really, really cool project for us. That was like, okay, I see, it helped me really crystallize about what's possible with AI. of saying, okay, you don't actually have to take let me just say it was an industry where there's not a lot of trust, and you need to visually verify whether something got done. It was just really clear, like, yes, there was a doorknob needed, and there was a doorknob installed. So I think really trying to turn the conversation into what AI can do for an application is really an interesting conversation to have, because you be really creative about it, and really it's wide open right now.
I think that, to your point, the 5 years, what we couldn't do 5 years ago, what we couldn't do 6 months ago, to what we're seeing now. I'm sure you've heard about the social network for AI agents. It's called, yeah. I think that's wild. Scrolled, I've looked at some of the conversations, and then I was thinking, did we build the kill switch first? Has anybody done that yet? So that.
What do you even build
my
that kill
mind.
switch though?
Kill the network.
Okay,
You
which
just
network though? Like the network in some random part of Thailand? Like it's always
we'll have to have a massive EMP or something.
okay.
I don't know. But I'm sure it will reinstall itself after everything comes back up.
That's the reason why we had so many science fiction movies about it.
It'll launch itself out into space, wait everything out, then come back.
Well, I think that one of the interesting things I learned about the Molt book was about how much they were being influenced by science fiction novels, dystopian science fiction novels, and it's almost like we've kind of given the. It's almost like in Ghostbusters, where the thing that they were most scared of is the vehicle of their own destruction. I think that might be with AI. Or actually, when we're writing down, hey, if the AI ever did this, it would be awful. And the AI is like, oh, we shouldn't. This is what they're afraid of, unwillingly.
It's that self-fulfilling prophecy. Hopefully, we shifted back towards that area of trust as much as possible. Today, emphasis should be on discovery, user experience research, and prototyping before heavy engineering. Engineering can be really expensive, especially engineering done well. Personas, empathy mapping, and testing prototypes with real users to reduce change resistance later. How this approach reduces rework, keeps projects aligned with business goals, and drives adoption and go live. We're going to kind of dig into some of that. How do you bring end users into the process so they feel like co-creators instead of victims of a new system?
I think you start off with making sure that they see the design, so they know what's coming, and then I'm a huge proponent of agile and just frequent releases, so they're constantly seeing what the software is. So it's very incremental improvements. It's also incremental introduction to it. So they're seeing stuff build one on top of each other, so they know what's coming. Even if they're not using it in their day to day, they know what's coming, and I feel like that really helps system adoption. They know exactly how it works. They've had an opportunity to test it in little pieces. They're not doing, oh my god, those 2 week, you know, user acceptance testing all in a room, conference room type rollouts. Shout out to that client who they know what I'm saying about. Those were painful. Conference room pilots. Oh my gosh, conference room pilots. I haven't thought of a conference room pilot in forever. Where you'd have to go test the software and you had no idea. You just had no idea what was coming. They just saw a whole bunch of stuff breaking and knowing and hearing like, oh my god, we're gonna go live with this in next week with all this stuff going wrong. That was an awful way to do stuff. And I know some ways it's still doing it, but like I love custom software for a lot of reasons. One of it is like you can introduce stuff incrementally like that. You don't have to do conference room pilots with go live 2 weeks later, 2 weeks before go live.
I think that's a great way to get the skin into the game. And
Yeah.
then you have a chance with that development methodology to pivot if you need to.
Yeah. But they also feel like part of the process. And it's like you can't be afraid of something where you're helping to drive it. You're helping, you're being listened to.
I'm curious on this. Do you have an example where early user experience work, so doing UX early, completely changed the direction of a modernization effort for the better?
I have an example of like a client where they had been stuck on a bad piece of software. It's a little bit of a niche, not niche industry, but it's something where there's not a lot of providers servicing that industry. And we convinced them to build their own software because of the prototype we were able to build for them. Like our product manager was, our product sponsor, executive sponsor was like, oh my God, this is actually what I've always wanted. And once he saw our prototype, he's like, I cannot believe that you guys were able to download out of my messy brain the exact everything I wanted. He was able to go ahead with the project because he knew that we could actually deliver on his insanity. He's a friend of now. He's saying he knows.
On a t-shirt or some kind of tagline. I love that.
So I think that was my favorite example of it. Sorry, Brian.
So change management in these organizations, you have champions, training, you have phase rollouts, measuring success from either reduction in the manual steps to improve decision speed and reducing errors. So how do you stay engaged post-launch to iterate, like you've mentioned many times, and scale what works? How do you go through measuring some of those things? So what metrics do you encourage clients to watch to prove that modernization is working?
I think that it's a very difficult question. I think that it's really about, are you able to do what you set out to do when you first started the project? Before we started building MVP or whatever, like, are you able to get done what you need to get done? Do you have the new features you were looking for? And honestly, also, if we do it right, it's gradual enough that there's no like, ta-da. It's more like, yes, we've been able to build this. Now, okay, now we get to build this next feature, and now we get to build this next feature. Because typically, like when you're building software, custom software, you're like, okay, now we're done with this one feature. We're rolling out to, now let's work on the next feature. So they're happy about what was built, and they're always looking forward to what the next thing is you're going to be building. I think in terms of the metrics exactly, I think what you're really looking for is driving business value. Okay, really what we always want to do on a project is say, okay, you were able to increase revenue this much, or you were able to cut costs this much, or whatever other business metric it is. We really, really feel strongly that you should be able to project to business metrics.
So how do you prevent teams from just recreating their old processes inside the new tools?
Sometimes telling them no. I honestly, it's kind of like, it's really just about asking why. I always, from a long time ago, asking the 5 why methodology you learn from doing, I forget if it's Six Sigma or Black Belt, whatever those things are, but just really trying to understand the 5 whys about why are you doing this way? Why are you doing this way? And asking not like how it should happen, but asking like, okay, this is your user persona. As this user persona, what are you trying to do? And trying to understand their end goal without them dictating the steps to get to that end goal. Because I have there's so many good BAs in the world, so many good designers in the world. Like they can help pull that out. If they know where you're trying to go, they can help lead them there. But if you start getting bogged down into specific process mapping, then it can get really slow, and you can start recreating a manual process inside new tools, and you start getting obsessing about where the export to Excel button is.
Do you see any big changes in modernization with UX or AI coming forward in your?
Absolutely. I really think that the prototypes we're going to be building, I think they're really going to be going from UX prototypes to AI prototypes, AI-driven development prototypes. You can build stuff really quickly now. The cost of software has gone down remarkably fast, and it's really about, hey, how do you build good software? How do you build software that's really inventive? But in terms of like, hey, we could build you a prototype that we could then iterate off of, which has a lot of value. You can do that really quickly now. And I think it's really going to help a lot of companies to say, okay, yeah, I don't want to pay a ton of licensing money to this company to follow their roadmap. And instead, I could see us building something that's actually what we want and something that we can control. Do you guys feel the same way?
I think that's a trend that I've definitely seen. And being able to take folks who are not as technical and they can kind of see what some of the possibilities are, kind of tease out some of those ideas in their head a little bit more, and then hand it off, and then just rapid prototyping, rapid development, and being able to get to a place where you can test that hypothesis sooner to see, is this working? Is this not working? Certainly seems to be where we are until we've got the agents essentially running everything. Andy, this has been awesome. Thank you for providing your perspective on serving people first, then technology, and your perspective. If you're enjoying these conversations about tech, AI, leadership, and life in the garage, make sure you follow the show and hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. This is Pops and Steele from the Wired Garage. Thanks for hanging out with us, and we'll see you in the next episode.